Yes, people, how we doing? Going live, and we're talking about Colin Pitchfork, who is an absolute monster of a man. He was jailed for life with a recommendation originally of 30 years. And what is unbelievable is the fact that he went and appealed the sentence and it was reduced to 28 years. Now, we've got a lot of different articles up in front of us, which I've been doing quite a bit of research because the majority of you will have heard who Colin Pitchfork is. He was responsible for the murders of two 15-year-old girls, two kids. But that monster also raped them poor lasses before he murdered them and strangled them. And I'm going to go into the case more details later on. But the purpose of the video is talking about he's been refused parole. Big round of applause for the parole board for doing that, because sometimes these type of monsters that do release them, well, they have actually released him previously, and he's recalled back to prison, which I'm going to talk about as well. But what I find fucking absolutely unbelievable about this case is the fact that when he's murdered these two teenage girls, it's been on separate occasions. If he was not stopped and apprehended, he would have went on to become a serial killer, because he would not have stopped. I mean, these killings were a couple of years apart, 2 or 3. I'll go over it in a moment, but there was that much information that I've went through. I've got it all down, so I'm going to read it out because I hate to think I got anything wrong. But someone like this, who's done 2 murders on 2 separate occasions and been motivated by what he done to them poor lasses, he should have been sentenced to life without parole. He's one of these ones that fits that criteria, never to be released from prison. But like I've mentioned, he got a 30-year minimum tariff. And he appealed the sentence and they fucking took 2 years off it. Can you believe that? Then they went and released him after 33 years, I believe it was. But the reason why he's been refused parole this time is because there was allegations against him, which he was took, I believe, I'm going to go over it again as well. The young inmate, I don't know what the inmate was in for, but a lot of these younger inmates who are vulnerable, some of them aren't bacons as such. They get put on the bacon wings because a lot of lads go into prison timid, never expecting to go to prison. They've done something, ended up in jail. The screws will look at them and say, listen, you're going to get eaten alive. You need to get put on protection. They sometimes tell them at reception, listen, you're not cut out for jail. They put them on protection. So whether or not it was one of them or whether he was a fucking bacon himself, Pitchfork, has been abusing him inside a prison, touching him up, and he actually put complaints in against him. And this is some of the reasons why he's been refused parole, because he's still continuing to do it behind bars. So when I say about these bacons never being rehabilitated, they cannot be fucking rehabilitated. That is what they're like. That's how they're wired up. That's their preference. You can't tell them any other. He is an absolute wrong'un. And like I've just said, he's continuing to do it inside a prison. Even when he got released, he was recalled back to prison for not complying with his parole conditions. So I'm going to go over it now. So this is the reason. So it says parole documents reveal a Pitchfork. Some of the stuff you might think, well, it's repeated a little bit, but I'm just going over different articles. Jailed for raping and strangling 2 15-year-olds, Linda Mann and Dawn Ashworth in Leicestershire, was SEX motivated when he assaulted a young inmate. So it goes on to say as well, he used cash sent into him from his partner to groom inmates and essay a younger prisoner in his cell. This has came out after his parole board. The parole board has released documents stating these facts. But how crazy is that as well? His partner. What sort of deluded woman would want to go with somebody who has killed 2 teenage girls and done that deed, done them despicable deeds to them before he's actually strangled them? You get some fucking weird, warped women as well who are wanting to go with the likes of him. But for anyone who's new, I'm just putting my aircon on there. I'm starting to get a bit hot in this room. I didn't realise it wasn't on. But there he is there up on the screen. Colin Pitchfork. This was, it says at the bottom of the picture, 2 seconds while I take this banner off the bottom. Pitchfork after his arrest in September 1987. So what I'm going to do now is go over, because you'll not want to keep that wrong'uns picture up on the screen for longer than is needed, but I just wanted to show you the picture of him when he was arrested. So what I'm going to do is go over the actual murders, talk about his case, then come back to the reasons why he was refused parole and what he's been getting up to inside of prison. Like I say, that bacon definitely hasn't been rehabilitated, but unfortunately, we couldn't do another one bites the dust with the little piglet, the bacon basher, because when I've looked into this horrible, despicable cretin, can you believe this? He's never been attacked inside a prison or nothing that I can find and nothing that's been reported on. He spent 33 years in prison and there's not one article online that he's been attacked. But then again, back in the days in the 80s when he was first in, a lot of things would have went unreported. He would have been battered off the screws. The screws would have let the lads into his pad. So as much as there's nothing online, believe you me, he would have definitely had some sort of prison justice in them 33 years. Like I've said, a lot of it definitely not like it is today with social media. On the papers, people fucking going straight to the papers and reporting when bacons have been done inside of prison. So Pitchfork was born on the 23rd of March 1960, and he's an English child murderer and child rapist. He was the first person convicted, I forgot to mention this one as well earlier on, the first person convicted of rape and murder using DNA profiling after he murdered 2 girls in neighbouring Leicestershire villages. Linda Mann in Narborough in November 1983 and Dawn Ashworth in Enderby in July 1986. So he was arrested on the 19th of September 1987 and sentenced to life imprisonment on the 22nd of January 1988 after he pleaded guilty to both murders, obviously with the new DNA coming out and him being the first person convicted using DNA profiling. He admitted to it. Then the sentencing judge, like I've mentioned, gave him 30 years, reduced to 28 on appeal. What was going through the appeal court judges' heads when they were reviewing his case, and they decided to give him a pat on the back and say, we're going to take 2 years off your sentence. Absolutely out-fucking-rageous. So he was granted parole in June 2021 and released on license on the 1st of September of that year. And on the 19th of November the same year, he was recalled to prison for breaching his license conditions. He was granted parole a second time in June 2023, but after the intervention from the Lord Chancellor, Alex Chalk, the parole board reviewed its decision and decided not to release him, only because the family was kicking up, which they would, kicking up a fuss and saying that they didn't want him out because he wasn't rehabilitated. So luckily they listened to what the family said, and this is what it's all to do with speaking up. If you don't speak up, nothing happens. So I'm not going to bore you with, because in this article that I've got up, it goes on to tell you a little bit about his early life and his fucking family, where they lived and all sorts, but I'm not going to bore you with those type of details because we aren't really interested in that. 2 seconds, because I've got some more. So Pitchfork married a social worker in early 1981 and moved to Leicestershire village of Littlethorpe. His wife attended Southfields College of Further Education near the Leicestershire Tigers Rugby Club, which formed the new Leicester College in 1999 in the late 1970s, and grew up at 21 Medvale Road in Knighton, Leicester. Before his marriage, Pitchfork had been convicted of indecent exposure and had been referred for therapy to the Carlton Hayes Hospital. So even all back then in the 70s, he's been a wrong'un since a kid. So Pitchfork had obtained work in Hampshire Bakery in Leicester in 1976 as an apprentice at the bakery head office on King Richard III Road. It closed in 2011 near the present-day Castlemead Academy. He continued to work there until his arrest for the murders. He became particularly skilled as a sculptor of cake decorations and had hoped to eventually start his own cake decorating business. According to his supervisor, he was a good worker and timekeeper, but he was moody and he couldn't leave women employees alone. Wow. And you're saying that he was a good colleague, but you couldn't leave women employees alone. He was always chatting them up in a weird way. So in October 1977, I'm going to talk a bit about his crimes leading up to the actual murders. So in October 1977, he was fined £30 by Market Bosworth magistrates for exposing himself to a schoolgirl pleading guilty when aged 17. Now, even that has took me back. Fucking hell. Fined £30. They should have been fucking electrocuting him back then to give him some electric shock treatment to sort his dysfunctional brain out. In 1979, Pitchfork forced a 16-year-old girl into a field and SA'd her. On the 14th of February 1980, when aged 20, he exposed himself again to 2 teenage girls in East Shildon and was given a year's probation by Hinckley magistrates. Now look at that. 3 separate occasions there. Doing that. It's beggars belief, this. If they'd gotten a hold of him earlier on, given some short shock treatment, might have prevented these murders. Time after time, they've just given him a slap on the wrist and let him off. And then these poor girls have had to suffer with their lives. On October the 21st, 1983, 15-year-old Linda Mann took a shortcut on her way home from babysitting instead of taking her normal route. She did not return, and her parents and neighbours spent the night searching for her. The next morning, she was found raped and strangled on a deserted footpath known locally as the Black Pad. Using forensic science techniques available at the time, police linked a semen sample taken from her body to a person with type A blood and an enzyme profile that matched only 10% of males. With no other leads or evidence, the case was left open. In October 1985, Pitchfork SA'd another 16-year-old girl, threatening her with a screwdriver and with a knife at her throat. Luckily, she got away. And this is what I'm on about this sick, depraved individual would have went on to become a serial killer. That's if there isn't ones that were never discovered which he'd get his hands on. The Liz Knight was picked up by Pitchfork on a Saturday in June 1986 and driven for 40 minutes from Wigston towards Great Glen. When she grabbed the steering wheel, Pitchfork's demeanour suddenly changed and he decided to drive to her house and not attack her. Pitchfork put his hands on her knee, saying, "I haven't hurt you yet." Pitchfork dropped Knight at her house, asking how about a good night kiss, which she refused. Pitchfork said, I bet you would never accept a lift from a stranger again. Most definitely not, especially a one that looks like that despicable man. So on the 31st of July 1986, 15-year-old Dawn Ashworth left her home to visit a friend's house. Her parents expected her to return at 9:30 p.m. When she failed to do so, they called police to report her missing. 2 days later, her body was found in a wooded area near a footpath called 10-Pound Lane. She had been beaten, savagely raped and strangled. The modus operandi matched that of the first attack, and semen samples revealed the same individual. Both girls had attended Brockington High School. Dawn's mother worked at the Next Pick in Enderby. George Davies offered a £10,000 reward. An initial suspect was Richard Buckland, a local 17-year-old with learning difficulties, who, while innocent of both murders, revealed knowledge of Ashworth's body and admitted to the Ashworth crime under questioning, denying the first murder. How tragic for that lad with learning difficulties, obviously at the time, they were probably trying to pin it on him as well, looking to try and get a quick resolution to these awful murders. So according to 1988 news reports, one of Pitchfork's colleagues at the bakery, 23-year-old Ian Kelly, who lived outside the area under investigation, was overheard in a Leicester pub discussing how he had provided a blood sample on Pitchfork's behalf by using a fake passport to masquerade as Pitchfork. He had agreed to do this in exchange for £200 and took the test on the 29th of January 1987. Now, anyone that's doing that and saying to the work colleagues, can you do a DNA sample for us? Come on, it doesn't take a genius to work out that he's just done these deeds to these 2 young lasses. So the conversation during the lunchtime of Saturday, the 1st of August 1987, was overheard by other bakery colleagues, and 28-year-old Jackie Foggin of Flenkley, she reported it to the police, but not until the 18th of September. This vital tip-off was later credited with enabling Pitchfork's capture. Pitchfork had told Kelly that he wanted to avoid being harassed by police because of his prior convictions for indecent exposure. Kelly was arrested at 31 Stewart Street in Leicester on Friday the 18th of September, and later receiving 18 months. On Saturday, 19th of September 1987, Pitchfork was arrested at 32 Herborn Close in Littlethorpe by Detective Inspector Mick Thomas. Pitchfork's wife tried to attack him when he told her that he had killed 2 girls. During questioning, Pitchfork admitted to exposing himself to more than 1,000 women, a compulsion that began in his early teens. He later progressed to SA and then to strangling his victims. Pitchfork said this was in order to protect his identity. Investigators rejected this, viewing the motivation of the strangulation as perverted sadism. During his interviews, if some of these words I try and say a little bit quicker, it's so they don't get picked up, because I'm telling you, when I say certain words on here, this will be flagged, especially when I'm saying some of the words that's in here, but hopefully it doesn't. And with it being alive, we'll find out afterwards. So during his interviews with the police, he admitted his crimes, but lied about the level and nature of the violence he had inflicted on his victims. At his trial at Leicester Crown Court in January 1988, Pitchfork pleaded guilty to those crimes. I'm not going to keep saying it. In addition to the SA of the 2 other girls and conspiring to pervert the course of justice. In January 1988, he was sentenced. Sorry, wait there, because I've just lost that off. In 1988, he was sentenced to life imprisonment for the 2 murders and 10 years for the victims, raping the victims. He was also sentenced, 2 seconds because I've just lost that off. So he was sentenced with an additional 10 years on top for raping the two girls as well. What an horrible, horrible piece of, you know what I want to say, but got to be careful, like I've just said. So I nearly lost that off, people. So he was sentenced for an additional 10 years. He was also sentenced to 3 years for each count of SA and 3 years on top for the other offences. Those sentences, believe it or not, were to run concurrently. They should have all been consecutively. Concurrently means they'll just run alongside it. Concurrently would have meant the wall have all tallied up together. Then it would have been a much longer sentence. A psychiatric report prepared for the court described Pitchfork as possessing psychopathic personality disorder, accompanied with serious psychosexual pathology. The Lord Chief Justice at the time of his sentencing said, "From the point of view of the safety of the public, I doubt he should ever be released." So why, if they're saying that at his sentencing, the Chief Justice, he was then given 2 years off his sentence when it went up for a reduction on his appeal against the sentence? It's absolutely fucking outrageous. So on the 18th of March 1988, George Davies would give Jackie Fogan a cheque for 10 grand at the next head of office in Enderby. Obviously, that was the reward for that. So his parole reviews, he actually went up for parole in 2016. So on the 22nd of April 2016, the parole board heard Pitchfork's case for early release on parole. He was presented evidence of his improved character, noting that Pitchfork had furthered his education to degree level and had become expert at the transcription of printed music into Braille for the benefit of blind people. The families of victims Linda Mann and Dawn Ashworth opposed his release on parole. And on the 29th of April 2016, the board announced that Pitchfork's application for release on license had been refused. Thank fuck for that. But recommended that he move to an open prison. So in June 2016, Michael Gove, the then Justice Secretary, agreed with the board's recommendation, and at some point prior to the 8th of January 2017, Pitchfork was moved to an undisclosed open prison. Now, I remember that at the time when it was in the headlines, they were on about it, but obviously they wouldn't give which prison he was in. And they've kept him secured throughout his sentence. That's why he's never been attacked, which is fucking outrageous, because he is one of them ones that deserved prison justice. This absolute wronging is as bad or worse than Ian Huntley. And to think that he's coming up chance after chance to get released. So on the 3rd of May 2018, he was refused release on license. Oh, sorry, I've missed something out here. In November 2017, Pitchfork was seen walking around Bristol. So even though he was refused parole, he's went to Category D, which is an open prison. And after a number of months, what they do, they start getting you work outside, or they start letting you out for 1 day a week on weekends for day release. And he's been seen walking around Bristol, so it was assumed that he had been moved to HM Prison Layhill in Gloucestershire. On the 3rd of May 2018, Pitchfork was refused release on license. The parole board said Pitchfork would be eligible for a further review within 2 years. Linda's mother said the board had listened to us before the murders, and in 2017 it emerged Pitchfork would be released from open prison on unsupervised days out. And on the 7th of June 2021, Pitchfork was granted release on conditional license. The Secretary of State for Justice, Robert Buckland, applied for a review of the decision under the terms of the parole board's reconsideration mechanism introduced in 2019. and Pitchfork remained in custody pending the outcome. On the 13th of July 2021, it was reported that the review had been refused and that Pitchfork would therefore be released. So he was then released on the 1st of September 2021. But luckily, he wasn't out there long, because I bet any money that if he hadn't been recalled, there would be more victims and there would be more murders. Because like I've said, his offending behaviour and his pattern of offending and going to the depravity and committing them type of murders, if he hadn't been caught at the time, he would have went on to do loads more of these murders. In November 2021, Pitchfork was recalled to prison for breaching his licence conditions by approaching young women while he walks out from his hostel. So he hadn't even gotten out of his hostel. He got released in September. He's recalled in November. Luckily, he's in his fucking hostel and he's out approaching young women. He couldn't even wait. Luckily, it was when he was in the hostel and he was getting supervised and people knew who he was, and they probably had people following him to see what he was up to. His second victim's mother, Barbara Ashworth, told BBC News that she was pleased he's been put away and women and girls are safe and protected from him now. There are complaints that the parole board was insufficiently cautious in allowing Pitchfork's release. Justice Secretary Dominic Raab promised a parole board review. David Baker, a former police detective who helped capture Pitchfork, believes Pitchfork could deceive the parole board and pretend it was safe to release him. Baker maintains Pitchfork is a psychopath and it will never be safe to release him. And I agree on that. He should never be released. They shouldn't have even considered him in the first place, because like I've just said, he's an absolute monster of a man. And he will be out to get more victims. So keep the fucking wrong'un inside of prison. Put him in a dungeon so he gets no exercise, no visits, and doesn't even get to see his partner. What a sicko partner she is. What sort of woman, like I mentioned earlier on, would go with a man like that? So the parole board's hearing to consider releasing Pitchfork again was postponed to 2023. His potential release was opposed by MP Alberta Costa. In June 2023, it was announced that Pitchfork would again be released under parole. The decision was widely criticised, and in July 2023, the Lord Chancellor intervened and ordered that the board reconsider their decision after a huge public outcry, particularly since Pitchfork breached his licence conditions within weeks of his initial release. Pitchfork's new parole hearing took place on the 2nd and 3rd of October 2023, and in December 2023, the parole was denied, meaning that Pitchfork would remain in prison. And in 2023, Pitchfork challenged the parole board's decision on procedural grounds, and in February 2024, the board agreed to reschedule another hearing before a different panel to consider his potential release. And on the 16th of May 2024, the parole board chair, Caroline Corby, reversed an earlier decision that Pitchfork's parole hearing should be held behind closed doors. The next hearing was broadcast due to public interest. There will be a preliminary hearing behind closed doors to address practical matters. And this is what takes us up to the present time, where he has just been refused parole again. Like I mentioned at the beginning, and I'm going to go into the reasons why, because there is another article to go over. There is a lot of information on here, so hopefully you are bearing with it until I finish reading out these articles. Then I'll do a little bit more interacting, or do some interacting rather, with the subscribers. So the parole board has actually released the reasons why. So Pitchfork, right, I'm just going to go over this one here because this is what the parole board has released. He was denied parole last month. Now a parole panel has revealed Pitchfork said to be sent additional funds from his partner, groomed and assaulted a young fellow prisoner in his cell. So not only is he continuing to do it when he's in a hostel, he's been recalled to prison and he's straight back at it. He's saying he can't get at the young girls, so he's going to get at the younger inmates. And in this parole report that they've actually released, it says his motivation in befriending this prisoner on the wing and providing him with assistance and canteen items was for his own gratification. So Pitchfork's actually now 65-year-old and he's still at it. And this is why when I do videos on these type of wrong'uns, I go on to tell you that they cannot be cured. They cannot be cured from being absolute wrong'uns. That's their preference. That's what they're always going to do. So keep them in fucking prison and don't give them suspended sentences. 2 seconds while I find this the document and go through it. So in the redacted document revealed he used cash from his prison job as a listener and money sent to him from his partner. It states it is clear from the evidence that Mr. Pitchfork, I wouldn't give his title, Mr. fucking Wrong'un, was spending a considerable amount of his own money on items for younger prisoners, which placed him in breach of prison rules. He was also in a position of power because he was well paid as an insider, and in addition, he regularly received additional funds sent to him by his partner. This meant he was wealthy compared to most of the prisoners. The wrong'un had not disclosed a letter written in another language to a convicted, much younger prisoner, convicted ex-offender, which the prison offender manager would have expected, and which raised questions for professionals. Pitchfork, who admitted to having exposed himself to more than 1,000 girls and women, or he was the first man convicted using that DNA. I mentioned that before. I've just seen if there's any more on that article. So that is that article there, but I'm going to go over what I've put in a second while I get this other article up. So that absolute fucking wrong'un has been doing that to the other prisoners, whether or not these other younger prisoners are Bacons or not. What he's doing inside a prison, he has not reformed. He will never change. And if he ever gets released, it's putting young girls at risk. Now, he's 65-year-old now, and age doesn't matter for these type of offenders for prison justice. Sidney Cook is in his 90s, I believe. I've done a video on him, and he was savagely attacked inside of HMP Wakefield, nearly losing his life. So I typed it into Google, saying, has Pitchfork been attacked in prison? And it says, Pitchfork has not been physically attacked in prison, but he was subject of an allegation that he essayed a fellow inmate. So there's nothing on there. Unfortunately, as much as I would love to have brought you some fucking poetic justice or prison justice, that he had been attacked inside a prison, unfortunately, he had not. But now that I've finished that, people, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I've been meaning to get this video up and running for the past week because, 2 seconds, dry mouth after reading all that out. But yes, after since last week, I've been meaning to do this. But like I say, these videos as well, there's a lot of research goes into them. I've had to read all of those articles that I've read out again, just so it's fresh in my mind. But I like to read them out so that I don't have any fuck-ups or cut-ups. Otherwise, it'll fucking ruin the live and it'll ruin the video when it goes out afterwards. But if you are just joining people, when I finish this video, it will be uploaded and you can watch it from the start. I've been on 35 minutes talking about that absolute wronging, and you will all agree that he should never be released from prison. Killing 2 teenage girls after doing that to them should have been life without parole. Now, if you've got any questions, people fire away. It's now subscriber interaction time. I can see that there's about 50 odd comments on there. I can't go back through all of them, but I will go through the ones which are the Super Chat members. And Machiko has just become a YouTube member. Thank you very much. And Doug Ross has become a YouTube member. And Yaki needs a shout out. He's been a member for 12 months. So thank you very much for your ongoing support. News is so depressing these days. It's refreshing to see some happy endings. So thank you. So yes, most of the stories that I share on here about these wrongings, because there isn't any other channel or there isn't any news media apart from Behind Bars TV that fetches you this type of content specifically about these fucking wrongings and bacons, more so when they get prison justice, because everyone likes to hear about these wrongings getting attacked inside a prison. And like Mace says there, he likes to come on here and listen, because like I say, even though some of the stories, the majority of the stories are sad, there's a lot of victims involved, more so youngsters, I like to come on and share the good news of these wrongings getting the prison justice inside of prison. So Saab Ross, who's been a long-time subscriber and member, has gifted 5 Behind Bars TV memberships. Thank you very much. Ricky, do you think Pitchfork will be moved again? I don't believe he'll go to Category D. Hopefully not. But he'll be in a Category C, Bacon prison somewhere. Sorry, I'm forgetting which one it is. There is a Category C prison. I think it's the one where the likes of fucking glitter and that is. There's a prison specifically just for them bacons. So SEFC Tom says, I struggle. Off topic, but it's good to hear I struggle with alcohol, but I'm doing better every day thanks to Ricky. Now, on the other channel, Ricky Colleen Daily Vlogs, I've now called it. It was a Ricky Colleen Fitness. I've got another channel. I'm going to be uploading a load of more content on there. And like Tom says, a couple of months back, it's a couple of months now, when I did have a bit of a relapse. I never had a drink in over a year. Went and had a 3-week bender. But when they're watching me, like likes of Tom coming on here, I also put motivation stuff on my other channel and on my Instagram and stuff. So he's obviously been watching me social medias and he's doing better every day. And I'm assuming it's down to that. So as much as you're saying thanks to me, Tom, thanks to you for the support, because a lot of you is the reason why I continue to stay on the right path as well. Because this YouTube isn't just helping you lot. It helps me. Because it's a hobby and I love doing it and I love bringing you the content. And if I go down that route of drinking and being an idiot, I can't bring this type of content because I'm not in no fit state. That's it. So when I was talking about that prison before, where's that? I've just, this. So yeah, it's the Vern Inn at HMP. The Vern is a bacon prison. There is nearly 1,000 wrongings in that jail. We all know what they should do with that. One of those drones, what they send over to Ukraine and Russia, should go across that prison and do some community service. So Desan says 10 years off the booze now. I was a right dickhead on it. We all, mate, it is the devil's juice, and it does turn you into someone different when you drink too much of the fucker. But like I say, I'm going to be putting that content on my other channel because I didn't want to mix it. I didn't want to mix the two channels up, talking about prison and talking about recovery and motivation, because I have tried it before, and a lot of people come to this channel just for the prison stuff. So I'm going to keep it on the other channel. But also, I think it might be on the About section, but I'll put it in the description. My Facebook profile page, which is just Ricky Colleen. It's public. I'm now putting a lot of content on there on a daily basis. That has got the mixture on. That's got the prison, the motivation, the travel videos. So if you want to go over, just type in on Facebook, Ricky Colleen, and you can follow my channel on there for free. Just click follow, and you will see all my daily content. I put quite a few videos on nearly every day, or reels rather. So Craig, another long-time subscriber, says, Ricky, thank you for everything you do. Not a bother, Craig. Like I've just said there, it's my pleasure as well. I love doing this YouTube stuff. I've been doing it for years now. It started off just talking about my book, which I wrote in prison, which helps people physically or mentally to get better, in a better state of mind and a better shape. But the channel was primarily to talk about my book, but it's evolved into this, which, as you can see by the views and by the fucking amount of subscribers across all my platforms, I've got over 300,000 followers, which for someone from a little council estate in Stanley isn't bad. So Gav says, good to see you doing well. I got out in 2016 and never going back. Well done to you as well, Paul. I love to hear these stories as well, when people have gotten out and they never went back. I got out in 2021 and I'll not be going back. You can never say never mind, because you never know when you've got kids or whatever. You never know what could happen. And as much as I'll say you never want to go back, if anybody ever hurt your family, more so hurt your kids, what are you going to do? Run to the police, or are you going to go and get the fuckers? Because if the Bacons get a hold of anyone that you know, and you had the chance of getting a hold of a Bacon before they got arrested, what would you do? And this is what I've educated quite a few people on this channel before, because you did get a few fairies in the comments saying shouldn't have went to prison in the first place. I've met people from all walks of life, people who shouldn't have been in prison. Anybody, all of you lot, even the people who've never been in trouble before or would never dream of getting in trouble, can end up in prison. The amount of people, like I've just said, that I've met inside of prison that shouldn't have been there, something tragic's happened, or someone's hurt the family members, they've reacted, went overboard, ended up getting a few years in jail, and you can just see and tell when you look at them, you think, you shouldn't be here. But that's what I mean by anybody can go to prison. So Machi, I'm just going to say Machi because I'm not going to say the whole lot. Bit of a tongue tire. I came close to getting put in, but I stay away from that crap now. Best option and best way. Good on you. So Gav says, anyone could end up in prison. Takes a split second to make a wrong decision. I was a career criminal and left that life for good. Well done, mate, because obviously when you've been part of that life for a long time and it's been part of your upbringing, everyone you're around, the norm in your area, you know different growing up. It's not until you get older, you have your own family and you start making your own decisions instead of making irrational decisions, going off what you see when you're a youngster or what you've been ingrained to do. Then you see things in a different light. And obviously, normally, when you get in your late 30s and 40s, that's when you start reevaluating your life and thinking, fucking hell, I've wasted enough time on this shit. It's time to progress in life and live a happy life, because you can't put a price on your freedom, your happiness, and your peace. So SEFC Tom says, I'm not sure if you watch Hedges. He's on about Hedgehog Man, who I had a lot of grief with, a lot of beef with. The beef didn't start out to be with him. But like he says, Ricky, would you ever do recovery podcasts with Hedgehog? If he ever did want to do one, then I probably would. Because I was an idiot when I was pissed up, coming on here, causing shit and causing beef for no fucking reason whatsoever, really. So I was the idiot that came on and started it, really. He reacted to me. His channel is all about beef and griefing people. I give him the ammunition to do what he done to me. And when we did have some interactions afterwards, when we put it all to bed, I sent him a message and said, I want you to publicly apologise. And he said, apologise? You were the one that fucking started it, calling us a bacon. Which I'd actually forgot about because I was intoxicated and I thought, right, fair enough. But like I say, I'll always own up to my mistakes. I come on here, I've done a public apology, fucking seen by 30, 50,000 people. I came on, put my hands up, owned it like I always do, and moved on in life. No point in spending time in regret. Yes, when I was in that frame of mind, I was thinking, he's getting it. I'm going back to the UK and I'm going to his door. But then when you sit and realise what you've done and you've made a fucking tit out of yourself, you think, what the fuck? But yes, there's a couple of people asked us that. There is somebody that actually goes to the AA meetings with them, and they actually mentioned something as well. So it's possibly something we could do. Wouldn't be on this channel though, because this is obviously crime and prison. But I will do one on my other channel, which is all about that, because I am all about helping people. Even though his channel's griefing people, and he is in recovery, but that's how he makes his money. So, like I say, I was the one that gave him the ammunition. So, Melon, thank you very much. This is the Super Chat, which is a new feature on here where people can donate or put money in to ask a question, because a lot of questions or a lot of messages do go unnoticed, but these ones pop up because obviously people are paying for the Super Chat. So we all make mistakes, lovely. Happens to the best of us. I know from past experience, and I agree. Damn and drink. I agree. Obviously, that's what she knows from past experience. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So Amanda, I've been trying to find my cousin. He was a case back in his day. I've never found him. I've often wondered if he was in prison. Well, I think the best way to find that out is by getting his name, putting him into Facebook or Google, and trying to find out that way, or trying to find any relatives or friends of his. Because a lot of people have asked us this question, saying, can you find, they've even given us the name of the person and said, can you find out which prison he's in? But you can't actually find out what prison people are in unless you can prove that you're either a parent or maybe he's a sibling. Then what happens is the prison where he's at gets in touch with them and says, do you want to be in touch with this person? They have to say, obviously, yes or no. Then they can arrange visits or phone calls or whatever. But as far as finding out which prison a person's in or finding out whether or not they're in prison, it's quite hard to do. The only way you can do that, get on Facebook, go on Google, and try that route. So Machi says, takes a big person to own your shit and put it to bed. Good on you. That's the only way you can move forward in life. There'll probably be a lot of you watching this that have got grief, animosity, anger towards people. If you continue to lead that life full of anger, bitterness, hatred, you will have a fucking hard life. And I know this from experience. I've harbored anger, I've harbored hatred, I've harbored bitterness in the past towards people. But it doesn't affect them, it only affects you. If you've got hatred towards someone, or anger towards someone, or jealousy, any of these type of things, if you've got any emotions that affect you in a negative way against somebody else, Their probably don't even know it half the time. They're going about their life. So it's not affecting them, it's affecting you. You wake up thinking about it, puts you in a bad mood for the day. You go to sleep thinking about it, you're fucking angry all the time. Like I say, I know this from past experience. I've been angry at and hatred towards a lot of people in my life. But when I've just said to myself, right, fuck it, I no longer hate that person. They're not a part of my life, but I'm not going to say anything to them when I see them. I don't hate them anymore. I'm just going to get on with my life and forget about them. And if they try to torture us, they can fuck off because they're not a part of my life. Then gradually you become better, you feel better, you don't think about it, you sleep better. It's as simple as that, really. It can be as hard or as easy as you like. It can be hard because it might be a person that you love, but you've got to just forget about them. Or it can be easy because you just have that mindset and you just think, right, put them out of the way. You're not thinking about them. That's it, done. Then move on with your life. So Ross says it affects them when you cross paths with them, then they will know. Exactly. Especially if you're pissed up and you're in a bar. That anger, that jealousy and hatred will come out. And it won't end good, rather. It'll end badly. So Tom says, thanks, Riggy, for this live, honest facts, and I am so happy to see you doing what you do best. But again, after that madness, what I went through in them few weeks, if you have a look at the videos, I've done the videos a few days after I'd stopped drinking. There was hundreds of comments on the video. People weren't commenting on the actual video of what I've spoke about. It was actually the murder of that fucking Ian Watkins. Luckily, his murder, got me back on here doing great content. So thank you, Ian Watkins, for sacrificing your life for my sanity. No, joking aside, I come back on here, and on that video, if you look back, people were saying how happy they were to see me back on here doing well and looking good and not full of the demon drink. So, as I'm on here and I'm being open and honest, True Coreaholic says, what was the beef you had with Danny G, or was it from being pissed up? I'm glad you've recovered. What had me griefing him, and this is a lot of why the different types of beef started, but someone had actually sent me a video, right, of him, and I'm not going to repeat it because people crop this fucking shit down and make it look as though you're the one that said it. He made a video up talking about Huntley the wrong'un, and I'm not going to repeat it like I've said because someone actually did. When I come on spitting fucking pissed up talking about it, I repeated the words that Danny G had said what I thought he'd said in a video, and someone done what they'd done with him. They cropped it down to make it look as though it was me saying it, speaking about Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman and Ian Huntley. And you can imagine what the conversation was or what was said. So this video someone sent us about Danny G. You all know how much I hate the fucking Bacons. That's what the channel's all about. So I got the video sent and I thought, how can he say such horrible stuff about those two poor young lasses that got murdered? Not knowing he was responding to Hedgehog Man, Hedgehog Man had made he was a stand-up comedian and he made this joke up as a stand-up comedian. So Danny G was griefing the fuck out of Hedgehog Man for making the joke up, but they went and cropped the video down like they've done with me. So it looked like Danny G done it because they kept putting little clippings in and cutting the bits out. So when I got sent the video, I thought he was on a fucking live talking about it, and I thought it'd come out of his mouth. But then someone had put it straight in the comments saying it wasn't him. They've cropped the video down. It was Hedgehog Man. So then my beef went on to griefing Hedgehog Man, and that's why I called him a bacon, and that's why it all started. But like I say, that was all. It's all been put to bed. It's all finished with. There is no beef. I was pissed up. I thought he'd said that, and I was fucking angry. And when I get pissed and I get angry and I get in that mindset, I just want to fucking grief anybody. Anybody that's done something wrong, I should say. It's not grief anybody, because I would never grief or taunt or hurt an innocent person, someone that's never done anything. But there we go. So Wayne says, top man, Ricky, nobody has clues up the British public better. Sorry, nobody has clues up the British public better than you in the last few years. You deserve some respect, mate. Good to see you off the drink, Ricky. I'm fighting that myself. Well, like I've just said earlier on in the live, get off the drink if it's causing you grief and it's causing you issues. Deal with the issues why you're drinking. A lot of people drink because they fucking like it. I liked it as well. That's the issue. When you like being pissed, that is a big issue. But sometimes people are drinking because of past trauma, hatred, or fucking different things like that. And that is a massive reason why they drink. So whatever it is, deal with the issue. Get yourself in a better mindset. 2 or 3 weeks off the drink. Get yourself out running, walking, going to the gym. You will feel 100 times better and you will start loving life. So Tom says, Ricky, I got on the drink as a replacement for drugs. Some people use drugs because of the drink as well. They get pissed up and they look for other stuff. You've obviously quit it and went on to the other. So now my advice for you, replace the drink with fitness, exercise, and mental health and looking after yourself. So, yeah, I love the uppers. Then I drink as well, so I just stay clear now. And that's another thing a lot of people can't have a drink without using that. And that sends you on a massive bender, shall we say, because you start using that, then you have the downers, then it's just a fucking downward spiral and it just continues and it's not worth it because that stuff, the sniff witches will know what I'm talking about, is absolutely, you can tell by my facial expression because as I'm saying it, I'm thinking about the position I've been in myself and what I felt like in the past of it. It is absolutely horrendous. Right, people have been on for 57 minutes there. Now I'm going to do exactly an hour. I'm going to wrap this up. If there is anything else you want to hear, quickly whack it in. I've got 2 more minutes before I wrap it up because it is nearly 10 o'clock here. I need to wind down for an hour before I go to sleep. But I'm going to be bringing you loads of content. Like I say, I'm getting a lot more time on my hands so I can do a lot more content. If there is any videos you would like me to cover, let me know. I'm just going to double check on here, make sure I haven't missed anyone off who's donated for a super chat. There's nothing there that I can see. So again, thank you all very much for watching. Okay, no worries, Ricky. Take care all. Everybody take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, people. Keep out of bother. Yes, Yaki, big up, brother. Brilliant chat, thank you. If anyone wants a quick shout out at the end as well, just tell us. Matthew from Peterborough. Ross, take care all. Have a good one. Ricky, watch how you go, bro. See you on the next one. No problem. Hunter, thank you as well. A lot of people that watch my channel as well, I do get a lot of requests saying, can you give us a shout out during your videos? Obviously, if you want a shout out, you've got to watch the live and I will do the shout outs at the end because a lot of people obviously sitting watching me back at home on a big screen TV. They like to record the live and then when the family members come in, say, listen, Ricky's give us a shout out or whatever because they've actually sent us their messages and emails and whatever and said like, I was so happy you give us a shout out. My son was watching and we're all buzzing watching you. So there we go. So I don't know who H2 Jack is referring to, Doughty Bacon, whether he's on about Colin Pitchfork or somebody else. Let us know who you're on about there, because you have put in saying check his story out, Ricky. You won't believe it, but I haven't seen in the chat there. Oh, sorry, Matthew Fox, Peterborough. I thought it said Matthew from. That's what I said when I give the shout out. So I will have a look at that one, Jack. Right, people, there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week.